Welcome, I'm Sue with Get to the Farm. Today, we'll be exploring the topic of soil. We'll learn about soil, its formation and layering, such as sand, silt, and clay. We'll also examine the texture and structure of soil and learn how to promote drainage, encourage soil life, and foster the industrious earthworm. So let's get started. Getting to the farm. Gardeners are a dedicated group, always striving for ideal soil, but faced with a myriad of characteristics in our own gardens. Ideal soil, called loam, is deep, easy to work with, and allows plants to push through easily. It's crumbly, with a chocolatey color, earthy, rich, and sweet smell. Soils in good tilth have all these wonderful characteristics of loam, and is something to strive for. Loam is well-balanced soil texture that promotes healthy plant growth. Loam contains lots of organic matter, which ensures a healthy soil community with large population of earthworms and other beneficial organisms. Soil building consists of making your soil as much like loam as possible, or, if you're already blessed with good loam, maintaining these productive qualities. That means fixing characteristics that are less than ideal but easy to change, such as drainage. Soil building also means learning how to manage or compensate for characteristics you can't change, such as texture. You see, soil is a combination of hard particles, space, air, and water. Good soils are teeming with variety of life, and soil organisms convert nutrients into forms they can use and recycle nutrients from organic matter. Understanding your soil texture is important because it affects soil properties such as aeration, water infiltration, nutrient holding capacity, and ease of working. Now let's move on to discuss common characteristics of soils with different textures, how to manage them, and how to test your soil texture. Soils with high sand content are dusty when they're dry, quick to warm up in the spring, and have low levels of organic matter. Soils with high silt content are at high risk for erosion, have moderate to high levels of organic matter, and feel silky between the fingers. Soils with high clay content are slow to warm up in the spring, have high to moderate levels of organic matter, and are very hard or cement-like when dry. Adding organic matter to soils of any texture makes them behave more like ideal loam, but it's hard to add pure clay to sand to improve its texture. As a result, it's easier to buy soil and amendments to create the perfect texture for your garden. Understanding your soil's texture is key to managing your garden and ensuring healthy plant growth with amendments such as peat moss, compost, or well-rotted manure incorporated into the soil. This will improve soil structure, water retention, and nutrient availability, as well as encourage beneficial microorganisms to thrive. Another important aspect of managing soil texture is knowing how to water your plants. Soils with high sand content drain quickly and may require more frequent watering, while soils with high clay content drain slowly and may need less frequent watering, but in larger quantities. It's important to water deeply and infrequently, which allows the water to penetrate deeply into the soil and encourage root growth. Finally, let's talk about how to test your soil texture. One simple way to determine soil texture is to do a squeeze test. Take a handful of soil and squeeze it tightly in your hand, then open your hand and observe how the soil behaves. Soils with high sand content will fall apart quickly and won't form a ball, while soils with high clay content stay together and form a hard ball. Loamy soils will form a ball that holds together but crumbles easily when touched. Understanding soil texture is an essential part of successful gardening. By knowing the common characteristics of different soil textures and how to manage them, as well as how to test your soil texture, you can improve soil structure, water retention and nutrient availability, and ultimately create a thriving garden. Poor drainage suffocates plants as waterlogged soils fill all the pore spaces that normally hold air, making it difficult for the roots to get oxygen. This also affects the earthworms and other beneficial organisms in the soil. On the opposite extreme, soils that drain too quickly can't supply roots with enough water. Such soils also don't hold on to nutrients long enough for plants to use them. Gardeners with excessively drained soil find that they have to irrigate and fertilize constantly. When dealing with topography, the shape of the land surface has a big effect on drainage. Where the ground slopes or forms a small hill, drainage of heavily textured soils will improve. Sandy soils, though, may behave more like very sandy soils. In some spots, where the land forms a bowl, water will tend to collect regardless of how sandy the soil is. You can modify the topography to collect all of the most extreme drainage problems. In low spots and heavy soils, or where the water table is high, raising the soil level or building raised beds will improve drainage. In sandy, light, or gravelly soils and dry climates, creating sunken beds will help gardens capture all the available rain or irrigation water. Where topography causes severe problems, get advice from a landscaping professional regarding your yard. The importance of structure and texture can't be overstated, as good structure helps ensure good drainage. Channels between crumbs allow water to move through and drain away so that it doesn't collect. Sticky substances and clay holding crumbs together also help hold water from draining away too quickly. Texture can help or hurt the soil, as the more textured the soil, the more quickly it will drain. The more clay your soil has, the slower it'll drain. Organic matter helps create any drainage problems by balancing texture and improving structure. Underground conditions below the surface can either help or complicate matters. A heavy clay soil sitting on a thick layer of sand or gravel may never experience drainage problems. An ideal loamy soil sitting on solid clay or compacted hardpan soil may collect large puddles after heavy rains. Soil drainage classes can also be helpful. Excessively drained soil is sandy or gravelly or on steeply sloped lands, and the top few inches dry out quickly. In well-drained soils, the top few inches stay moist after rains. Poorly drained soil is wet for several months of the year, and very poorly drained soil stays wet almost constantly. Water forms long-lasting puddles on the surface. There are a lot of plants that indicate poor drainage. Getting to know wild plants in your yard can tell you a lot about what's going on below the surface. The most reliable indicator plants are those for poorly drained soils. While areas that form puddles may be easy to spot after heavy rains, indicator plants can show you these areas at any time. But don't rely on a single plant or an unhealthy specimen. You need to see several thriving plants of one type, or at least 3 different types, to know your drainage is poor. Wild flowers and weeds like bulrushes, buttercups, cardinal flowers, cat's tail, colt's foot, dock, hellebore, horsetail, ironweed, mosses, plantains, poison hemlock, rushes and sedges, skunk cabbages, and water hemlocks are indicators of poor drainage. Shrubs and trees that indicate poor drainage are alders, buttonbush, chokecherries, meadowsweet, summersweet, willows, and winterberry. Soil life plays a crucial role in maintaining the health of your garden. These organisms include earthworms, fungi, bacteria, and many others. They help break down organic matter, release nutrients into the soil, and improve soil structure, which in turn helps with drainage. One way to promote the growth of these beneficial organisms is to add organic matter to your soil. This can be in the form of compost, leaf litter, or other natural materials. By doing so, you'll be providing the nutrients these organisms need to thrive. Another important factor to consider is the pH of your soil. Different plants thrive in different pH levels, so it's important to test your soil to see where it falls in the pH scale. Most plants prefer a pH between 6 and 7, But some, such as blueberries, prefer more acidic soil. If your soil is too acidic or too alkaline, it can affect nutrient availability and plant growth. There are many ways to adjust soil pH, including adding lime to raise the pH or sulfur to lower it. Finally, it's important to practice good garden management and maintain healthy soil and promote drainage. This includes avoiding overwatering, using mulch to conserve moisture, and avoiding compaction of the soil. By following these tips, you'll be on your way to promote good drainage and healthy soil in your garden. Promoting good drainage is essential to the health and vitality of your garden. By understanding the factors that affect drainage, such as soil texture, topography, and structure, and taking steps to promote healthy soil, you can ensure that your plants will thrive and grow to their fullest potential. With a little bit of effort and attention, you can create a garden that's not only beautiful, but also healthy and sustainable for years to come. Soil teems with life and healthy soil organisms, from earthworms to microscopic bacteria. They're one of the best signs of good and fertile soil. They need the same soil conditions as plants do to survive and become numerous. They also help create the very physical and chemical conditions that constitute good soil. Soil organisms offer many benefits. Many stir the soil as they move around, mixing organic matter as they eat it, or carry bits into their nests by digging aerating channels and excreting gummy substances that stabilize the crumbs. They improve structure, help balance soil chemistry, and neutralize acidity or alkalinity. Some convert unavailable nutrients into a form that can be used by plants, while others create humus that holds the nutrients secure against loss by erosion, yet in the form that's most readily available to plants. Fungi are the most versatile soil decomposers. They make major contributions to improving soil structure and fertility. While a few cause plant diseases, others prey on nematodes, tiny soil-dwelling worms that attack plant roots. Most fungi feed on decomposing material. Fungi range from microscopic single-cell yeast to larger molds and familiar toadstools. Though they're the smallest decomposers, microscopic bacteria are, by far, the most numerous in total weight, as well as numbers. They're very simple life forms consisting of only a single cell, and since they divide and reproduce, their numbers can increase and decrease very rapidly. When fresh organic matter is added to the soil, their populations explode, dropping back to lower numbers once the food source shrinks. By encouraging soil life, you can enlist the help of soil organisms in creating and maintaining good tilth. It creates favorable conditions, and these are the same conditions that promote optimal plant growth. So, start by improving soil texture and structure and ensuring good drainage, as we mentioned in our earlier videos. In cultivated soils, food is the main limiting factor. That means you'll need to keep soil abundantly supplied with organic matter to feed the soil life. Correct extreme acidity or alkalinity and keep your soil within a range of 6 to 8 pH. Also make sure that your soil is well supplied with calcium, as this nutrient is needed by most soil organisms, as well as by plants. The indomitable earthworm is the gardener's best friend. Earthworms provide many of the benefits of other soil organisms by digging through the soil as deep as 3 to 6 feet. They open up channels that increase soil aeration. Studies have shown that an increasing number of earthworms in soil is directly related to increased productivity of plants grown in the soil. Use pesticides and fertilizers wisely. Minimize the use of pesticides. Many of these are toxic to soil life as well as whatever insects you're trying to control. Avoid over-fertilizing because an excess of some nutrients will upset the soil's chemical balance, making other nutrients completely unavailable. Test your soil periodically to see which new nutrients are actually needed and whether any have built up to excess. Try to minimize the use of concentrated, fast-acting types of fertilizers, especially synthetic sources of nitrogen, such as ammonia. Direct contact with ammonia harms earthworms, and very concentrated fertilizers can harm many organisms. Less concentrated fertilizers, those with lower NPK numbers and slow-release formulas, are safer for beneficial soil organisms. Most organic fertilizers are considered less concentrated. By creating favorable conditions, adding organic matter, and minimizing the use of harmful pesticides and fertilizers, you can encourage soil life to work its magic in your garden. Thanks for watching. Happy gardening. Hit that like button. We'll see you next time.
And I feel like New York City. Get me to the farm. Get me